Good day. Today's lesson is about punctuation. It's lesson 15 for grade 8. I'm Mrs. Swart and I'm going to take you through this lesson. Just before we get started, I had a little bit of a gremlin in my computer and I couldn't get access to the quiz, so I couldn't set up the quiz for you, but I will share it as soon as possible. But let's get started with the punctuation. We are going to look at the following points: the quotation marks or inverted commas, colon, semicolon, the hyphen, and then the dash. Now, when we look at quotation marks or inverted commas, whichever one you want to call it, you will notice that the highlighted yellow quotation marks, those are double quotation marks. And you will see that in green highlighter, it's single quotation marks. But have a look at how they're formed so that you can see that's how they actually should look. Now, what does a quotation mark do? It indicates direct speech, could be title of books, things like that. Quotations, quote, or title in direct speech is enclosed in double quotation marks. Let's look at this example. I really love this example because it gives us examples of single and double quotation marks within the same sentence. The film critic said, and then we have a single quotation mark because this is the words used by the person. I believe that Spielberg's films especially, and then when we get to the names of the films that he wants to accentuate, he puts them in double quotation marks because he's showing you this is the name of a film. E.T., Schindler's List, and Amistad have had a great influence on world cinema. Close with a single quotation mark. Things like slang, foreign phrases, or something dubious, ironic, or unusual about a word or a phrase would also be in quotation marks. And I think you already know that sometimes you find that things like the titles of books, the titles of films, are actually written in italics or written in capitals. So there are various ways of doing it, but we are using the quotation marks today to show you how to do this. Then the colon. The colon is the two dots that they use, and it separates elements in a sentence. It introduces direct speech, that's your dialogue format, a quotation, a list or series of ideas, a definition. If you have something like Peter, colon, and we have these words. And Peter says, I am so happy to see you again. Then we know that is direct speech, and the colon then has shown that to us. With a semicolon, call it a dot and a comma. It's a longer stop than a comma when you're reading it, but it can also separate lists when commas already separate words, just to help you with that distinction. We also find that when there's a contrast in two balanced sentences, that a colon will be used. It's almost like two different ideas that are put in the same sentence. I saw the humor, semicolon. My teacher saw the tragedy. The hyphen joins words together. Now, when we say joins, we think of there's no spaces between the hyphen. The hyphen's a little stripe. No spaces between it because the hyphen touches on the first letter of the second word and on the last letter of the first word. So then you find that they touch. There's no gaps in between, no spaces. It joins compound words like walking stick. It can break a word at the end of the type of a line. When you get to the end of the line and you haven't left enough space to complete the word, you have to break it up by using a hyphen, not an equal sign, a hyphen. It also clarifies meaning. For example, listen carefully to this one. It says, the sweet shop assistant. Now, the sweet shop assistant tells you that the assistant working there is a sweet person, is a kind person. But if you speak of the sweet shop assistant, sweet shop is the type of shop. It's a little bit different then. So it distinguishes between two different meanings of the same word. It avoids awkwardness. Often you find quite a few vowels that follow one another, and then you look at it and you might struggle to read it. So if you put in a hyphen with a word like cooperation, you're going to find that it's so much easier to read and to spell. It can also link certain prefixes to nouns like pro in proactive. It replaces to in some phrases like 1989 to 1990. And then the dash, last of all, that's what we're looking at. Remember, the dash has spaces next to it. It doesn't touch the words that are before it or after it. And it creates a long dramatic pause. It indicates an abrupt break in a sentence or a change of thought. And it acts as parentheses instead of commas or brackets. Remember the difference between a dash and a hyphen. It's minute. If you know what the difference is, you'll be fine. But if you don't, you could get confused and you could argue the wrong point. So what we want to do is make sure that you get it right and that you understand what these punctuation marks are and what their function is. In other words, what do they do? What is the aim of using it? Why do you use it? What does it help you to do? And we've given everything here. So remember as well with interruption or hesitancy in speech, that is where the dash is used. So go and look and make sure that you have this clear in your mind. And then thank you very much for today and have a wonderful afternoon.